When I go somewhere on a day trip, I have clear priorities. The first thing I do is figure out where I'm going for lunch. Afterwards, or while I'm doing this, I wander around and look at the place. In Piacenza, my first choice for lunch not far from the Duomo turned out to be still closed for vacation. En route to my plan B, I wandered past Piazza Sant'Antonino and admired the eponymous basilica. Its current look dates back to the 11th century, so the octagonal bell tower was already standing when the Lombard League and Frederick Barbarossa worked out the details of the Peace of Constance here in 1183. But I still didn't have my lunch sorted out. My second choice was closed at midday on Saturdays in September, I learned when I got there. I had no plan C, so I called the restaurant and asked the owner for his recommendation. He suggested a place at the end of Via del Castello, which I indeed found. It specialized in innards, including bull's balls. But it was over 30 degrees in the shade, and for me, that's too hot to be eating bull's balls. So I made a reservation at a place I had passed on the way there, at the beginning of Via del Castello, at Osteria La Trappola. After all that walking around and examining the morning market on Piazza Cavalli, I found a seat at a bar in front of the Palazzo dei Mercanti and refreshed myself with a mineral water. The very attentive waiter at La Trappola seated me in the courtyard and moved the outdoor mobile AC unit closer to my table. That unit was much needed, and it actually cooled. I got myself set up with water and, on the waiter's recommendation, a glass of Chardonnay Grida delle Biade from the La Celata winery in the Colli Piacentini. During the course of the meal, the waiter peppered me with tidbits of historical information on Piacenza. He didn't trust my brochures from the tourist office. My primo arrived. Glorious fresh tortelli with spinach. A perfect demonstration of Emilia-Romagna's outstanding reputation for fresh stuffed pasta. These tortelli may sound simple, but when they're this good, it's hard not to faint. There was grana padano to sprinkle on top, of course, plus a little side dish of reconstituted and stewed dried porcini. My waiter had been ambiguous about whether these were to be spooned over the pasta or eaten by themselves. I ended up eating them one by one in between morsels of tortelli. We continued with a tasca di vitello ripiena, or stuffed veal breast. Whether this dish, a classic of Viennese cuisine, dates back to the era when Maria Luisa of Austria was the Archduchess of Piacenza, my waiter didn't tell me. He did tell me it was filled with grated fresh breadcrumbs, 24-month aged grana padano, diced vegetables, and eggs. It came with pickled red onions and mixed peppers, and I additionally got a side dish of giardiniera, an abundant assortment of more pickled summer vegetables. In between courses, my waiter, having learned I was from Vienna, made a point of telling me how beloved Maria Luisa had been in Piacenza, due to her beneficial and highly productive 30-year reign, called a long and happy parenthesis in the city's history by my tourist brochure. The waiter also provided many further historical snippets, but we have to move on to dessert. Dessert being a torta Luisa. So, named for the Archduchess, I asked. The waiter looked offended. No, named for the cook's grandmother. That relative was obviously a great source of inspiration. Said tart was made with peaches, cocoa, amaretti, the sour cherries called visciole, and their juice. What a fabulous tart! After my coffee, I was happy and ready for my meander through Piacenza in the blistering afternoon heat. Join me on that in my next video.